Hello Mavericks, happy Wednesday. So I hope everyone is in their assigned seats. My ambassadors, don't forget the last 4 to 5 minutes that you take care of your classroom assignment. Please help us out. So let's go over our warm-up today. Okay, so here we see that there are how much data, and it tells us up at the beginning that there's 12, right? And so automatically we can tell ourselves it's going to be 2 in the middle, right? So half of 12 is going to be 6, right? So I'm going to count the first 6. I'm going to say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's going to be team A right there. And then I'm going to count the second team. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So there we have another team of 6. So again, if I were to have this as a data and I folded it in half to find the median, the middle, again, what middle-sized shoe would be between an 8 and a 9? Hopefully you said a 9.5, right? I'm sorry, 8.5. There we go. 9.5 is what Miss Galvon wears. All right, so our median is 8.5. Okay. And so then we're going to go and find our quartiles, and those are what we call the middle of the first half and the middle of the second half. So please make sure you have something to write with, because I want to make sure that we know this new vocabulary, okay? And so we say least to greatest, and we end up with these two right here in the middle. So we're going to, again, go in the middle of 7 and 8, and we know that it's 7.5. And this is what we say is quartile 1 or Q1, but it's also known as the lower quartile. And the reason it says lower is because usually it has a lower value. It's on the lower end, right? Because it's always from least to greatest, so that's what we say our lower quartile. Okay, so make sure you write that right there just in case. All right, and then last, let's do our quartile 3. So we're going to say least to greatest, and we end up with these two in the middle. And so in the middle of that we know is 10.5, known as quartile 3, or what others may know it as the upper quartile. Again, upper means it's higher, so it's going to have a higher number in value. So if we look at that, we know 7.5 is on the lower end, and 10.5 is on the upper higher end because of its value, right? All right, so let's go ahead and practice range. Okay, and so we know range is gonna be kind of like ELA from the beginning to the end. So we see the beginning right here, our minimum, let's label that if you didn't, and let's label our maximum. So our range is always our maximum minus our minimum. Okay, and so we say 14 minus 6 would give us a value or a range of 8. Then we're going to do our interquartile range. So interquartile means inside our quartiles, right? So inside the quartiles, where are the ranges, right? And the formula for that is going to be Q3, or the upper quartile, minus Q1, the lower quartile. So we say 10.5 minus 7.5 gives us an interquartile range of 3. All right, and so let's go ahead, and here was the challenge to draw the box plot, right? And so I know we're still kind of getting familiar with this. All right, so let's go ahead and draw our minimum at 6. There we go. And then we're going to draw our lower quartile at 7.5. So I'm going to put a little line there, go up. I'm going to say that's Q1. And then our median was 8.5, so I'm going to put an M there and draw a dot right there. And then our upper quartile, or quartile 3, was 10.5, so I'm going to go up right there. Okay, and then lastly, our max value, the maximum number of data, okay, was 14. Let me go back and label that one too. All right, so again, a box plot, we're going to put a box around the quartiles. So let's go from quartile 1 to quartile 3. So I'm going to do a different color. I'm going to go through the dot, and let's draw a rectangle all the way through to our quartile 3. I'm going to go through there, and we're going to box our quartiles, right? And so last week we learned about the 5 main points, right? Like a summary. So the who, the what, the when, the where, the why. Well, we're going to box the middle information. That's the middle chunk. That's the important stuff. That's like right there, the whole problem and solution, right? And so then we're going to draw the middle line, and it's not going to be the middle of the box. It's the middle of the median, okay? So I want to make sure I clarify. It's the middle of the median. We're going to draw the line through there, and there's our box. So we have a box and whiskers, right? So we're going to connect the minimum and the maximum, the beginning and the end, and there we go.
Good morning, teachers. Teachers, if you are rocking your favorite team's jersey, come on down to the front foyer.
All right, sorry about that interruption. I'm recording before I leave. So there we go. Now we have our warm-up done. All right, so one thing I do want to go over, if some of you are out, is this vocabulary that is now glued on the inside of your journal. Peak, cluster, and gap. Okay, so peak is another word for mode. Cluster, right? We cluster sometimes in the hallway, or we cluster in football. Okay, so we make groups, right? We make crowds. And so here we see here's one cluster right there, and then over here is another cluster, and we see that there's a cluster between 0 and 2 and 4 to 6, right? And so those are clusters. Make sure you know that for your exam next week. And then lastly is what we call a gap. A gap is just an empty space between the data. So right here we see that there is a gap between, I can't even see those numbers, goodness gracious. I want to say it's 30 something to 40, right? Maybe that's 30, 35, 40, perhaps. I don't know what it's counting by. Sorry, guys. But again, this is the gap. So we would say it has a gap between this value right there. Okay. And so make sure that you know the difference, right? And again, label it so that you are aware and practicing your vocabulary. I will put a challenge at the end today. The most important thing that I do need you to do is your review. So you have this paper, it's in yellow today because I want you to understand that it is important to complete, right? And so we're going to practice this one so I can show you what like one of the test questions could be on your test next week. You're going to work out the rest of them. Again, the best practice is to label each point, right? And make sure that you work it out, okay? And that you know the vocabulary, right? Okay, so make sure you are practicing that. And for your own things, go ahead and see if you can find the gap on here, right? So looking at that dot plot. All right, so let's go ahead and look at our checkpoint review. We're going to do the top one together because it still goes with our warm-up. Okay, so pulling back our information here, okay, we have that lower quartile, or quartile 1, has a value of 7.5. So I'm going to do the quartiles. The quartiles is the beginning of the box. A has that. The beginning of the box is at 8 for B. That is wrong. Okay. And then for D, that is at 8. That is wrong. And for C, yes, it's right there. That is right. So usually the minimum and the maximums are pretty much always going to be correct. So that's why I jumped to the quartiles. All right, next I'm going to look at the median. Our median we found when we did this was going to be 8.5. So again, the middle of the median, not the middle of the box, the middle of the median. Right here, this shows that it's 9. Nope, that's not right. This one shows that it's right in between 8 and 9. Did we say it's 8.5? Yep, it's 8.5. So then my correct answer would be that. Okay, so again, make sure when you get this, label it. Your minimum, Q1, median, Q3, and your maximum. That's your best practice. Okay. So when you finish this, please put your answers in Schoology so that you get immediate response. Okay. The goal for this is to make an 85 or higher. So you have 3 attempts to make your best grade, and then I will also post a challenge there for you as well, okay? So good luck, and see you all on Thursday.